So it's good to see you after that. I hope you are, in a way, enjoying it, and that you will continue if you're in it. Okay? So, as I've told you via email, to relieve the protesters from the burden of having to choose between protesting or coming to class, I'm putting in place everything which is feasible for them, or even you, to validate, to come, not to come, the way they can, the way you can, to class, etc. Okay? So we will do that because, as you can see, many students are not here. And this way you can validate and protest at the same time. Okay? I will try to do it as a win-win situation. Now, to do that, the validation of Spinoza, we'll have a paper for that. I'll send you an email soon detailing the paper. It's like an exam that we'll do at home. It's a paper that some of you are used to. The same format, you pick a text, you answer some questions, and you have your grade on Spinoza, because we're about to finish Spinoza, and you can do it at home. The same goes for the audios, which you can use if you're here or not here to follow up and validate the course. And if you're lost, given the exceptional situation, you can ask questions now by email, WhatsApp, or Skype. I'm very serious. You can really send me questions or require a WhatsApp thing, and I will answer your question. I hope this is clear. Okay, so let's continue with the material, because you have to finish the program for you to be able to validate this course. I will send you the dates and everything. You don't need to worry. It would be tailor-made for you.
We won't have a test.
So far, you don't have a test because there are a lot of absences. If the course resumes normally, you will have seated tests. If not, you will have papers to hand out. The papers are exactly like a test, but you do it at home. Okay? So let's continue with Spinoza. So we said that, just to refresh your memories, because it's as if it happened in another time. So to refresh your memory, we were saying before the revolts that if you're doing philosophy, what do you need to get to first? If you're doing philosophy, not science, not psychology, not logics, you're doing philosophy, what is the first thing you need to get to? The first thing you need to be able to understand and define? Philosophy, Thank you. The ontological position, meaning the definition of reality. Really, this is philosophy. Philosophers begin with a definition of reality. So if you want to really do philosophy, as you have seen with Descartes and now with Spinoza, you need to get to the definition of the real. And did Spinoza get to the definition of the real? What was his definition of the real? What is reality?
For him, the definition of the real was we're all living inside of, and we're all.
Yeah, these are consequences of the definition. What is the definition of reality? Thank you. The definition of reality is a substance. The real is something that exists independently and that we can know independently from anything else. And so it is a substance. And the real is a substance which has all attributes. I hope by now this is clear. It's clear. Does it ring a bell? If not, raise your hand. I can answer. We've said that Spinoza is able to prove that you can be a substance that has all the attributes. Why? Why you can have all the attributes without having a contradiction between the attribute and without the attribute dividing the substance into, like slices? Yes, because they are. So, if they are independent, can they limit each other?
They can't limit each other or divide each other because you have to be from the same nature, from the same essence or attribute.
Yes, so because they will not divide the substance and they will not limit each other. Why? Because each attribute is what you conceive from the substance, and the substance is conceived independent. What does it mean? Means that you don't need anything from A to conceive B. Do you need anything? Can you be extending without having thought at all? Yeah. Can you be thinking without having extending at all? Yeah. So you see, extension doesn't need thought, nor thought needs extension, and extension cannot limit thought, nor thought limit extension. These are two different natures. I hope this is clear. You have really here two different natures. If you want the most palpable example of that, can you cut the table with the idea of a cutter? No. But can you limit the idea of the cutter with the idea of a horse? So can you think of a cutter and then of a horse? Yeah. So ideas limit ideas, and materials limit materials, not matter, materials. Of course, matter cannot limit thought, nor thought can limit matter. They are in two different dimensions, they are two different attributes, they are really like two different natures. This is why they will not limit each other. And will they divide the substance? We say that the substance have many, in quote, attributes. Are these attributes many?
No.
And why we should put quotes?
Because to count them, they must have the same nature.
The same nature means they should belong to the same attribute. Can many attributes belong to the same attribute while remaining many attributes? Or will they become the same attribute? The same attribute. I hope this is clear. To count, remember that you have apple, banana, orange. Can you say 3 apple, banana, orange? To count, what do you need to put these 3 under what? Under the same attribute definition, essence, which is in this case fruits. So if you have attributes which are absolutely different, you don't have an attribute that can work as an umbrella for these attributes, so you cannot count them. And if you cannot count them, they're not really many. There are many in code because our language here fails to understand the conceptual requirement. It fails to express what conceptually we can reach. Language here has a limit. We know conceptually that God or the unique substance has all the attributes, but they are not really many. It's a unique infinitude. Okay, I hope this is clear. So he says that if it's possible for a substance to have all the attributes, will this substance exist more than an infinite number, in quote, of substances, each having an attribute? What will exist more? Why a substance with all the attributes will exist more than one substance with one attribute or 10 attributes? If you have all the attributes, why you exist more than a substance which has only 1 or 2 or 3? What exists more? What is the definition of existing more? You exist more when you exist in more dimensions. Okay? So if you have an infinite number of attributes, do you exist in an infinite number of dimensions? Yeah. If you are a substance whose essence is only one attribute, do you exist in one dimension? So if you exist in an infinite number of dimensions, do you exist more than if you exist in one dimension? Yeah. Okay? I hope this is clear. So this reality, really this reality, where you are sitting here, this reality, what is its formula, this reality? one substance with an infinite number of attributes, you can be sure that this is the formula of reality. Reality is where you are, because our intellect, our conceptual understanding forces us to think that. It's not Trinity, it's not polytheism, it's not God the creator that creates the world. It's one reality which is actually having all the attributes. This reality, we call it what? The absolutely infinite. Is this clear? You have it here on the board, in the middle. The absolutely infinite is the substance which has all the attributes, which is the formula of the real. Now, if you are a substance having an infinite number of attributes, do you have an infinite power to exist? Why yes?
Because nothing can live in this world.
Great. Can anyone stop me from existing if I have all the attributes? I'm the only reality. Can anything or anyone or any other substance stop me from existing?
No.
No.
Why not?
Because nothing can live.
Why nothing can limit me?
She has the same attribute.
Great. To limit me, this other devil, anti-God, anti-Christ, whatever you want to call it, needs to share with me what? An attribute to limit me under that attribute. But if he shares with me this attribute, is he still an opponent? No, I swallow, I include, I envelope this opponent. He becomes one of my modalities, and he's not anymore against me as a reality. Is this clear for everyone? Okay? So you see, what you really need to understand very clearly is that the conception of a substance having an infinite number of attributes implies an infinite power to exist. And how do you explain that you have existence and an infinite power to exist, meaning that existence will always be there? How can you explain that? Why is there existence? Is there existence? Yeah. Someone asks you, yeah, but why is there existence? What can you answer now if you're a Spinozist? So I repeat, I give you a clue. If you are a substance having an infinite number of attributes, this is your essence. This is how we understand who you are, and who you are in this case, the absolutely infinite or God. If you have all the attributes, will you have an infinite power to exist, meaning nothing can stop you from existing? So, do you exist? Yeah. Nothing can stop you from existing, meaning you exist. Now, question in reverse. Why is there existence?
Because God is infinitely productive. So.
Not yet. Why is there existence itself? Before going into who exists, why is there existence? It's very simple. Absolutely infinite nodes to infinite power to exist. Why is there an infinite power to exist?
Because there's absolutely infinite.
Because of the absolutely infinite. Okay? Because it's possible to have a substance with all the attributes, because this is possible, it's a real possibility, nothing can stop existence from existing. Is this clear? When you understand that it's feasible for a substance, meaning something independent, to have all the attributes, this is what explains that there is existence. If this wasn't possible, if it wasn't possible for a substance to have all attributes, can you guarantee that there will always be and there is and there was existence? If it's not possible for a substance to have all attributes, what would happen if a substance cannot have all attributes? You could have, in code, I will not do the scenario in detail, but you could have a conflict of substances and the destruction of one by the other. I'll close the parenthesis. Is this clear? But if you have all the attributes, nothing can stop you from existing. Okay? Okay? Okay, good. So as you can see, the absolutely infinite implies an infinite power to exist, and vice versa. How can we explain that there is existence and there will be and there was existence? Because it's possible to have an absolute infinity. Now, you see, God's definition, if you want to define God, i.e. reality in philosophy, God and reality are the same in philosophy. If you want to define God, what is the definition of God, or what is the essence of God? Substance having an infinite. What is the definition of man? Rational animal. Does the definition of man imply his existence? No. If you're a rational animal, do you need to exist? No. You can remain a possibility. This is the difference between you and God. God is really an infinite power to exist because his essence, what he is, implies that he exists. You are what you call an actual infinite, because who you are does not imply that you exist. What are you? You are a rational animal in general, and you are a very specific rational animal. Is this clear? We are all humans, but aren't we different to some extent? All of us, aren't we different? Yeah. What makes us different? Each one of us is a variation on this ratio called animality and rationality. Yeah.
How does the possibility of something imply its existence?
Exactly. This is God. Because it's not a possibility anymore. You understand his essence. What is God? Substance, infinite life. If this is who you are a substance with all the attributes, does this imply that you have to exist?
No.
Why not? What can stop you from existing? If you are a substance with all the attributes?
The same, another substance with the...
Can you have another substance with one of the attributes?
Why can't you have two substances, both of them pure, they have infinite...
Yeah, can you have two substances with an infinite number of attributes?
No.
Will these two substances share in the attributes?
If they share the same attribute, then
If they share the same attributes, they are the same substance. You remember that. If you remember the demonstration on the first demonstration we did on the infinitely perfect, can we have two substances of the same attribute? You remember that the demonstration? Why, if we have two substances of the same attribute, can we distinguish them by the attribute? Why not? Because it's the same attribute. So how would we distinguish them? By the mode. Can you know the substance or distinguish substances by the mode? No, it's to know the mode you need to know the substance, and not to know the substance you know the mode. So it's impossible and absurd to have two substances of the same attribute. So if I have all the attributes, can anyone stop me from being? No. A posteriori, is there something here? Is there matter and thought? Now I'm talking, yeah. So if there is matter and thought, means there is existence. This is a posteriori. And then you can wonder, what is the formula of existence? The formula of existence is that there is a substance with all the attributes. And is it there? Yeah, of course it's there, because look around you, it's there. Did you get how he does it? In both ways. A priori, if I am a substance with all the attributes, nothing can stop me. So there aren't any reasons for me not to exist. A posteriori, but there is something that exists, and then we need to find the formula of that existence. And what is the formula of that existence? It's not the Trinity, it's not polytheism, it's not Descartes, it's Spinoza, meaning one substance with all the attributes, as proven by the demonstrations. Okay? It's clear? So you see, for God, his essence, in quote, it's not really a possibility. Our essence is a possibility. Why? What is our essence, if you remember last time? So, I refresh your memories. Let's take blood. Is blood a ratio of white cells, red cells, and lymphia?
yeah.
Yeah. Now, if you disturb this ratio, do you still have blood? Let's suppose you have too much lymph here. Do you still have blood? Is it still blood? As you say, byumsul. What does it mean? Blood is. You have diseases where you lose too many red cells, and all your blood becomes of only white cells and the yellow thing, the serum. Is it still blood? No. So you see, what Spinoza is saying is this: if you take blood, bones, brain, neurons, stones, whatever you take that exists, isn't anything that exists a proportion of movement and rest, a proportion of things. So let's suppose blood, you need to have 1/3 white cells, 2/3 red cells, I don't know how, third, white, yellow, and red. If you disturb this proportion, do you still have blood? No. And now if you look at the red cell, inside the red cell, shouldn't you have a proportion of hemoglobin and I don't know what? And for a hemoglobin to be hemoglobin, shouldn't be a proportion of I don't know which proteins. And for this protein to be a protein, shouldn't be a proportion of I don't know what? Yeah. So if you look at blood, isn't blood a proportion of proportions? Yeah. You see, it's a proportion of proportion. And aren't you a proportion of proportions of proportion? Because you have bones, blood, nervous system. So what are you? You are a proportion. Now, of course, you are a human, meaning rational animal, but you are a proportion of neurons and animality. And this is what you are. A proportion of proportions. This is why, as in some mystical currents, they say that we are numbers. Why are we numbers? Even since Pythagoras, we used to say, everything is a number. What does he mean by everything is a number? As it is a proportion. You are 1/256. He is 100/253, etc. You see, these, what do we call these? This is your number, and your number is your proportion, and we call it the characteristic ratio, as you can see here on the right. Okay? You are really characterized. You are characterized by a proportion. Now, does your proportion imply that this proportion must be there in the world? No. Can we think your proportion even if you don't exist? Yeah. I don't know if you follow exobiology. You know exobiology? No? Exobiology, it's a branch it's between cosmology, it's between the exploration of space and biology. It's exobiology, meaning it's a branch of science where they try to imagine what would be the shape of the animals that can live on Mars or that can live near a black hole and stuff like that. Now, of course, when you do exobiology, what do? You say, if I live on Mars, what should I eat? I should eat stones. And I should breathe, I don't know what, acid. And I should drink, I don't know what. And they start imagining the body of this animal that eats stones and breathes acid and stuff like that. Okay? So, you see, this is exobiology. Can we really conceive this animal? Yeah, we can. We can conceive it as a proportion. Let's say it will have, blue blood because the blood is contaminated by calcium or stuff like that, and you will have all kinds of variations of animals. Okay? Now, does this animal really exist? No. This is what you call a possible essence. Our essences are possible. What constitutes our essence is a possibility. Our characteristic ratio can be actualized or it can not be actualized. This is why we are possible creatures and not necessary creature, in quote, and not the necessary being. Is God a possible being? No. Can he not exist? No. You see, he's not a possibility, he's a necessity. We are a possibility because our ratio, we can think it even though it cannot exist. But the essences of God and God himself, can you think the essence of God and God is not there? I give you an example. Can you think thought and there's no thought? No, it's an impossibility. If you think thought, to think you need to be already in thought. Can you be extended without there being extension? No, there must be extension for anything to be extended. Right. So extension and thought are really like unconceivable as possibilities. So I repeat, is this clear or I repeat? So I repeat, we are here. Just to refresh your memories. So it's absolutely infinite, has an infinite power to exist because he has all the attributes. Now, if you want to know what constitutes, really what can fulfill an infinite existence, you have to look around you. You have to look around you for what can be infinite. And what can be infinite would be part of the essence of God. Is this clear? Is the chair part of the essence of God? Part of his essence. Meaning, can God be without the chair being here? Yeah. Is the chair in God? Yeah, but is it part of his essence? No. On the other hand, is extension part of the essence of God? Extension, the act of extending, is it part of the essence of God?
Yes.
Yeah. And you can't have God if God is not extending. Why you can't have God if God is not extending? Because the extending would be made by someone else, which is impossible. We have extension. Okay? So the extending must be part of the essence of God. Why? Because extending is infinite. Can you imagine extending in all direction and in depth as much as you want? What I'm saying is very, very simple. Can you imagine extension of the universe forever? Yeah. Can you have a limit for extension? Can you limit the universe, the extended universe? To limit the extended universe, what do you need? You need a limiter, and the limiter shouldn't be extended. And will then be part of extending, so you can't limit extending. Is it clear? For thought, it's the same. Can you limit thought? To limit thought, what should you do? You should think of a limit of thought. Is it a thought? Yeah. So it's a thought. Let's suppose you want to stop your thought. What do you think? I want to stop my thought. It's a thought, so you can stop your thought, and you keep on thinking and thinking and thinking. You cannot stop thought or limit. So we know of two things which are infinite, which are what? Extending and thinking. These are two actions. These two entities which are infinite are part of the constituted essence of God. Which means God is an infinite power to exist. What cannot be limited that we know of? We know of two things that cannot be limited, meaning that they have to exist, which are two infinitely perfect entities which are extending and thinking. Is this clear? Now, when you know that matter, meaning the extending, and thought are infinite, as soon as you think them, do you see them? Can you have a place in the universe where you do not have thought or matter? No, why not? Because they are infinite. Can you have a hole in the universe? Or a limitation? Why not?
Because the limit of the task to be within an attribute, unless it's not the limit of the task to be within an attribute, whereas it's not
Great. So if you have a gap in the material world, what does it mean? It means that you have something which is not material, limiting the material, which is an impossibility. As you are sure that whenever you open your eyes, do you have thought and matter for sure all the time? Yeah. This is why when you understand the infinitely perfect, you have an infinite perception. You have an infinite perception.
Meaning you, when you look at matter, you know that it can go forever in depth and in width, if you want. And you know that your thought can go forever, whatever happens. Okay? On the other hand, you have a characteristic ratio. Now, when you are in one of these attributes, you are a proportion of thought, you are a way of thinking, and you are a way of extending. This is you. Now, some people think fast, some people are slow, some people like Beethoven, some people like Mozart. These are differences in proportion of thought, and you have a difference in proportion in your body. Not all people have the same exact body, and people are not horses, and horses are not birds. You have different proportions in matter. This is clear. So you are in matter and you are in thought, and actually you are a proportion of thought and a proportion of matter. So you are a proportion of thought and a proportion of matter. You are a way of extending and a way of thinking. This is what we call your characteristic ratio. And because you are only a characteristic ratio, your existence is possible and not necessary. Okay? I hope these are clear. Now, let's suppose your characteristic ratio is being actualized in the world. How do you feel about it? Let's suppose your number is 1 over 256. This is your number. When in the world things approximate this ratio, how do you feel about it? You're happy, thank you. Why are you happy, or what is happiness? It means your ratio is getting actualized. If you get poisoned, why aren't you happy? Because something is disrupting your proportion. You are losing parts. This is clear. So when you lose parts, meaning when your parts are not going to be included in someone else's proportion, are you happy or sad? You're sad. And when you gain parts, when you eat meat or you eat vegetables, you are taking the parts of someone else and including them under you. Are you happy? Yeah. So you see, the more you approach your proportion, you're happy. You see, the more your body reaches your number, the more your soul is happy, and vice versa. And when your soul is happy, you know that your body is reaching its proportion. I hope this is clear. So now you know how to guide yourself in life. What should you follow? What is good for you? What satisfies your proportion? And how do you know what satisfies your proportion? What makes you happy? It's very simple. You can apply that on everything, as I told you. Want to pick a course. How do you choose your courses? You want to be a Spinoza now. You should choose what? What you understand only. What you like. What makes you happy. Can you understand something that makes you sad? Why not? Because something that saddens you, do you have anything to do with it? No, and understanding is to find something common. Understanding is when you find something common between this and that. If you're sad, can you understand? You can't understand. Actually, you can only understand when you're happy and in God loving what you do. See, it's a very practical system. So if what you study, what you eat, what you listen to, what you watch, the people you are with make you sad, should you stay with them? No, you should run away and find someone, something, whatever that makes you happy. Okay, I hope now you see how this ontology is turning into an ethics. Yeah?
If something used to make you happy and then it made you sad or otherwise, does it mean that the proportions change?
No, it means that the proportion of absorption of that thing changed. So let's suppose you like to smoke. So you say it's okay, you can smoke. But if you smoke a lot, the degree of your smoking is getting out of proportion, and hence you are getting out of what suits you. This is why you have to bring it back to its usual proportion. The same goes with food, people, books, or anything else. So you can love something or someone in proportion. If this proportion gets out of proportion, you are dealing with something else. You see what Spinoza is saying is that you are a proportion that appropriate proportions in proportion. I hope this is clear. So you don't have like, I like him or I like her because of her or him. He's not saying that. He's saying that if you like a person, you can't stay glued on that person day and night and then say, oh my God, I stopped liking him or her. Because of course, now you are taking so much in of that thing or person that it's deteriorating your proportion. On the other hand, if you can regulate that, you will be able to take what suits you and not anymore disturb your proportion. This is why we have the power to be affected. I hope this is clear now. Why are we happy and sad? We are happy and sad because we live in the contingency of the world, and sometimes we encounter people that make us happy, or we encounter situations which make us happy, and sometimes we don't, meaning sometimes we encounter situations that destroy us, and sometimes we encounter situations that empower us, and this is why you have this mood swings. You keep on going up and down. Is God happy or sad?
God
Shouldn't tell me now. We don't know. First, does God have a ratio?
No.
Can he lose or gain parts?
No.
No. So, is God happy or sad?
It doesn't.
He doesn't know sadness nor happiness. God, he is absolutely you can disturb. He is in a state of calmness, neutrality. He's neither happy nor sad. Okay? How does God produce? He produces out of his own power by following his own nature. So you see, what for God is an infinite power to produce, what is it for you? An infinite power, a finite power to be affected. This is correlation clear. Can you produce yourself out of your own essence? No. So, do you need to encounter something or someone to produce yourself? Do you need to eat and see someone not to get depressed? Yeah. So, are you dependent on the contingencies of the world? Yeah. Is God dependent for him to exist on the contingencies of the world? God? No. Is God dependent on the contingencies of the world to create himself or something? No, why not?
It doesn't depend on anything.
Yeah, but why in this specific case? Why God can create and must create out of his own essence and freedom?
Because every attribute has a consequence.
Great, because every attribute has a consequence. And if every attribute has a consequence, and each attribute belongs to the nature of God, and nothing can stop God from following his nature, will God follow his nature? Yeah. And will God then unfold all the consequences of the attribute?
Yes.
Yeah. Let's do it again. What are our nature? What is our nature? What is our essence? Rational. So what are the consequences of being rational and animal? Thinking, studying, watching movies. What else? Getting bored, sleeping, being hungry. All of these are the consequences of what? Of who we are. Now, when you're hungry, would you like to eat? Yeah. And if you eat, are you happy if the food fits your... yeah. So you see, our nature is limited, and it has a big number of consequences, but not an infinite number of consequences. Now, God, does he have the infinite number of infinite natures? So will he have an infinite number of consequences? Yeah. And would he be doing that by following his own nature? Yeah. This is why God creates freely and without limitation. Is this clear? So let's see if you're understanding. Can you have God without a creature? In some
religions, you had God and then he creates. Can this be in Spinoza? No, why not?
Because God is infinitely producing, and there is no limitation in scope.
So is there a difference between the nature of God and God as a creator?
No,
It's the same. What is the cause of existence of God? Himself. And what is the cause of his creation? Himself. And if you want to expand on that, because I don't want you to reach a situation where you always tell me it's himself, God, God, God. So how can you now show me why the reason of existence of God is the same as the reason of his creativity? The answer is himself, but can you expand on that? So I repeat the question, why the reason of existence of God is itself the reason why he creates? The answer, of course, is himself. But what is God?
and the attributes leads to consequences, and at the same time, you cannot limit.
Yeah, so can you put it, you're right. So how can you put it clearly? So I repeat the question, can you explain why the reason of existence of God is itself the reason of him being creative?
The reality is an infinite number of attributes, and the attributes have consequences.
Yes. In one sentence, yeah. So this is what you said. So you see, when you have all the attributes, do you have an infinite power to exist? And you have all the attributes, do you have an infinite power to create? Yes. So you see, it's the same. You can't exist as God if you don't create. It's not that God exists and then he creates, or that, or vice versa, or whatever other scenario. I hope this is okay. So, you see, these are the essences of God. I hope by now they are clear. You have the absolutely infinite, the infinitely perfect, and the infinitely productive. Okay? And these are the essences of the creature, any creature. Not only man, horses, birds, stones, anything. Anything is an actual infinity and not an absolutely infinite. What does it mean? It's an infinite under a ratio. You, what are you? You are something finite, but do you have inside you an infinite number of ratios, of ratios, of ratios? You see, I don't know if you know in mathematics, it's a limit. It's a limit to the infinite. This is us. What does it mean? It means you have an infinite number of ratios converging towards one number, which end up being u. 1 over 256, this is units. Okay? So you multiply all the ratios. The ratio of the blood with the ratio of the bone with the ratio of, and you end up with the ratio of ratios. This is what you call the actually infinite. You are an infinite under a limit. You are infinite, but under a limit. God is infinite without limit. So the actual infinite is this. And you as an actual infinity, what do you want in life?
Satisfy your proportion.
To satisfy your proportion, which means to stay alive. To stay alive is what you call the conatus, or the perseverance in being. The perseverance in being, meaning all what you want is to stay alive. So the desire to stay alive is what? The desire to stay alive is the way the infinite power to exist appears to you. Is this clear? God is absolutely infinite. He has an infinite power to exist. He doesn't need to stay alive. But the absolute or the infinite power to exist appears as a perseverance in staying, existing. To persevere in existence is the way God appears to us from within. Is this clear? So is there anything more sacred than you staying alive? For Spinoza? No. Actually, God himself, I repeat and I insist on this sentence, appears to you in your instinct to remain alive. And this is how God creates everything. So if you remember last time, we said that let's suppose a lion is coming to eat you. Why is the lion coming to eat you?
Because it wants to stay.
Because the lion wants to stay alive. And you start running. Why are you running?
you want to stay alive. And the chicken starts running in front of you. Why it's running in front of you? It wants to stay. And you see, what do you see? This is what you call a causal chain. You see, causality, in Spinoza at least, you can understand it mechanically, like a bit like Descartes or like what you do in mechanical physics. Like, you have laws and it goes like that because this is the law of nature. Is Spinoza saying that? When Spinoza said God is the cause of everything, is it a mechanical cause of everything? Or is it a living cause of everything? Mechanical cause is like, you have this geometric space. If you throw a billiard ball, it will have to go like that because of velocity and I don't know what. Does Spinoza think like that?
No, Spinoza says that the entire world is a causal chain. So when you want to exist, the other thing will exist.
So really, if you want to live it, what is causality?
Wanting to exist.
Yeah. Actually, causality is the manifestation of the desire to exist. I hope now you understand the sentence, God is the cause of everything. Why God is the cause of everything? Why God is the cause of everything? Who is God? Infinite power to exist. How does this power appear to us? As I want to exist. And how God unfolds himself by making each creature wants what? To exist. So you see, everything in this universe, why is it moving the way it's moving? Because everything wants itself to remain alive or to exist or remain part of existence. And this is what creates all the movements that you see. Yeah?
What about material things?
Yeah, we're getting there. Are material things alive in Spinoza? They are. As we'll see in one minute. And they are happy and they are sad and they have appetites and everything else. We will see in 1 second. Okay? But what I'm trying to explain to you here is that you need to really get the Spinoza's causality from within. Actually, everything moves in this universe, not mechanically, but in a kind of living way. So when acid goes to eat base, it has an appetite for base. Why it has an appetite for base? Because this is how it can prosper and keep itself alive as an acid. And when an atom goes there and is attracted by that, it's because atoms too have perceptions and they want to acquire parts or release parts. And this is how everything moves in this universe. I hope this is clear. Okay? So, you are an actual infinity and you have a desire to stay alive. This is what we did so far. I hope this is clear. Is this clear for everyone? This is a revision of what we did so far. Now, these two here, these are what you call the ontological essences. This is ontology. The column in the center and the column to the right are really how things are. You are an actual infinite, you have a power to be affected, you have a characteristic ratio. This is really the skeleton of any creature as a creature. On the other hand, the creator or God or the real is an absolute infinite, he's infinitely perfect, and he has an infinite power to create. This is the description of necessity or God. The other one is the description of the creature or possibility. Now we move here into something else on the left, which is knowledge. What can we know? And does God think? And what is he thinking about? This is part of what you call a kind of epistemology or a gnoseology of God and the creature. I hope you're getting the difference. We understood what you are, and now we want to understand what you can know and what God can know, and who will be done with Spinoza. So, does God think? Does God think? does reality think? Huh? Why not?
He doesn't need to think.
He doesn't need to think.
Thinking is a part of reality.
Is thinking part of reality? Huh?
Thinking is an attribute
Thinking is an attribute of who?
of God.
Of God. So, does God have the power to think?
Yes.
Yeah, so does God think?
Yeah.
Not him.
Huh?
Not necessarily. As attribute.
Not as?
Not necessarily. He has it, but doesn't need to use it.
Can he has something and not use it,
No,
God?
because the attribute.
Can God has a nature and not performs that nature?
No.
Why not?
Because attribute.
Nothing.
First, why if he has a possibility, he should do it, God, for sure.
Because it's his nature and
It's
nothing
his
is
nature. Do you like to follow your nature? If you don't follow your nature, why you don't follow it? Let's suppose you'd like to sleep and you have to go to class. Why you would wake up and force yourself to wake up even though you would like to sleep?
Doesn't have that.
Yeah, because your parents or the society tells you have to do it. So can you always follow your nature?
No.
No, why not?
Because we're not free.
It's against the will.
Why something can go against your will? And not really why? Because you're a modality. It's very simple. You live in the world, the bus can crush you and the tiger can eat you, and hence you're not absolutely free. God, can anyone not let him follow his nature? God.
He can't be forced.
He can be forced. Why?
He's free.
Why he cannot be forced? Because for you to force him, should you share with him an attribute? Yeah, this is why you cannot not let God think if he has the power to think. I hope this is clear. So do we know for sure that God has the power to think? Yeah, because thinking is one of the attributes of God. So God has the possibility to think, and if he has the possibility to think, will he think for sure? And will he think all the time? And can anyone stop him from thinking? No. Great. Now, the question is, can God have two thinking minds? Mr. Jekyll, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Hyde and Jekyll. So during the day he's a nice doctor, and at night he transforms into a serial killer. He's schizophrenic. He has two minds. You have Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So Dr. Jekyll is a nice doctor, and at night he transforms into a serial killer. Can God be schizophrenic? What I'm saying is very concrete if you follow the history of religion. It's the Zoroastrian religion, as far as I remember. You have Aram and Ahriman, which are the good God and the bad God, which is a God which is obscure on one side and luminous on the other side. Can God be the God of good and evil at the same time? Can he have two minds, God? Did you get at least the question? So can you have can you be schizophrenic if you're God? You have thinking well and then you think bad if you're God. Can you have two thoughts?
In many substances of the same nature.
Huh?
Many substances of the same nature.
No, I mean, can you have two thinking ways if you're God, or you'll have only one way to think? To put it differently, can you have two thinking attributes? Nothing, no. You heard about someone, did you tell someone one day, I don't like the way you think? Have you ever uttered this sentence? Anyone? I don't like the way you think? Okay. So, we have ways of thinking. You could like my way of thinking or not like my way of thinking. You have two ways or more of thinking. God, does he have one way of thinking or many ways of thinking?
Meaning, does he have one attribute of thinking or many attributes of thinking? It's drawn on the board. This is God. Look at him. Okay. So, how many attributes thought can God have? Huh? Can God has 2 attributes thinking? Can you have? Why not? They can be 2 and it's the same attribute. Can you have 2 similar attributes for the same substance, or don't they become the same attribute? They become the same attribute. So, if God is an infinite power, when you condition him with the attribute thought, he becomes an infinite power to think. Can you have 2 attribute thoughts? No, because if you have 2 attribute thoughts, aren't they the same attribute? They are. You could have 2 ways of thinking, but not 2 attribute thoughts. Okay? So God has only one power to think, because he can only have one attribute thinking. So the power of thinking of God is a unique power of thinking. Is this clear? Because you can't have 2 attributes which are the same, they become the same attribute. Okay? Now, when you think as God, should you think about truthful things? And thought, should it be about truth? Thought? Yeah. And truth is what? Is when your thought corresponds to what? To reality. So if God thinks and thought must be truthful, who should he think about, or what should he think about? Huh? Why himself? Because he's the only reality. So does God think? Yeah, because thinking is one of his attributes. And is it a unique power of thinking? Yeah, because there's only one attribute, thought. And what is he thinking about? Himself, because thought must think the real, and he's the only reality. Okay? So what you need to see here is that the thinking of God thinks about God because God is the only reality. But also the thinking of God is a unique thinking because you cannot have but one power of thinking in God. Is this clear? So if you look at these here, intrinsic truth and extrinsic truth. What is extrinsic truth? It's truth from the outside. When I say the chair is blue, is it the truth? Yeah. And when the thought of God thinks about the reality God, is it an extrinsic truth? It is. Because God is thinking about himself, so he's thinking about who he is and what he is doing. This is extrinsic because you have the unique power to think. What does it think? The unique reality, extrinsic truth. On the other hand, isn't God himself, which is the reality, which is thinking about itself? Yeah, so this is what we call an intrinsic truth. I'll give you an example for you to understand. When you move your hand, do you know that you're moving your hand? Yeah. So when God is doing things, does he know that he's doing things? Yeah, this is what we call the intrinsic truth. And in code, does he see that he's doing things? This is what we call the extrinsic truth. And do these two fit together? Yes, because you have a unique power to think, which is the consequence of the unique reality that thinks itself. Okay? So we're getting there. No, it's not too complicated. It's not very complicated, you see. When you have all the attributes, you are a unique reality. And because you have all the attributes, you have the thinking attribute. So the unique reality thinks, and what does it think about? Itself. So you have extrinsic, intrinsic, which are the same.
for us, as we will see, the extrinsic truth is not the intrinsic truth. I can't think that this is blue and then I discover that it's not blue. While for God, the act of thinking is itself thinking about itself as the only reality. So this is the first one. Now, does God have an infinite power to think, or is it a finite power to think? Infinite. Why is the power of thinking of God infinite? Why his power to think is infinite? Thought is an infinite attribute, yeah. But the power of thinking of God, is it infinite? Why, yeah? By now it should be clear. Just look at that, it's the same story over and over again. If your power is not infinite, what does it mean? It means it's limited. And does it mean that something or someone should limit this power? Can anyone limit the power of thinking of God? No. Why not? Because you should have another thinker limiting God from thinking. And this is why nothing can limit the power of God when it comes to thinking. Is this clear? So, the power of God is infinite. Shouldn't he then think of something which has an infinite number of consequences? I'll give you an image. Let's suppose you have a supercomputer, a quantum computer which is very, very fast. And then you give this computer the task to calculate 1 plus 1 equals 2. How many milliseconds this will take?
Very few.
Very few. So, in that case, will the computer, which is super powerful, be able to perform his infinite power all the time if you give him programs which are tiny? If you give for that computer very, very little tasks to do, will he be able to unfold his superpower?
We will not.
He will not be able to really do it. So he will be limited by these programs. So what kind of program you should give for this computer for it to perform fully? It should be a very complex program. An infinite program will allow this computer to unfold all the consequences of the program. Now, if God is an infinite power to think, what is the idea which is absolutely infinite, which has an infinite number of consequences?
Reality.
Which is what? Himself. So God should think what?
About himself.
Himself as an idea. So in thought, do you have the idea of God?
Yeah.
You have the idea of God, and God actually is thinking himself. Because only the idea of God has an infinite number of consequences which can fulfill the infinite power to think of God. And these two are what we call the intellect of God and the idea of God. See, God has an idea of himself, and the power of thinking of God, what does it think? It thinks everything happening in God. Okay? You can imagine God like a huge simulation machine, thinking and producing all the images that you see, if you want an image of that. So the last one is the way God creates. Let's suppose you have a modification here. Something happens here. God moves here. Can you understand this event in matter or not?
No.
What is matter? Isn't matter a way of understanding God? What are the attributes? Are the way we understand what constitutes the essence of God. So if something happens in God, can we understand the thing happening materially? Yes. And if it's happening materially here, this is where it is here, would you have a correspondent in the idea of God?
Yes.
Yeah. You see, for each body created is actually the expression of an event in God. And for each body created, you have an idea that corresponds to that body. So how does God create everything? Via what you call individuals. This is an individual. Why it's an individual? Because it's a body and what? And a soul. You see, any reality that happens is immediately understood as soul and body. Yeah?
When we say everything God,
Yeah.
and does God change?
These are the events of God. God is all the time producing.
And is there a change?
Huh?
There's a change.
Not really. How it changes the modalities.
It's caused by the infinite power to produce.
Yes, infinite power produce, let's say, this and this and that. Our problem is that when he produces this can be understood as body or soul. But this cannot be also understood as X and Y and Z. Yeah. You see, what are the attributes? The attributes are different ways of understanding God and what is happening in God. So whatever happens in God is reverberated into how many attributes? An infinite number. And the thing is that each time God makes an action or acts, it is reverberated in matter X, Y, Z. And when it's reverberated in matter, you will have, would you have an idea of matter? Here, would you have the idea of what he did in matter? Because does God know what he's doing?
Yes.
Yeah. So if he creates in matter, would you have the idea of what he did in matter? Yeah. So this gives you the first individual. But the same event has a creation in the attribute Z. Would he have the idea of what he did in the attribute Z? Yeah. And Y, and so you have the ideas that are occurring in all the attributes. Each time you couple now the idea with an attribute, what do you get? You get an individual. You are one of these individuals. Meaning you are an action or creation of God, which was translated in matter, and of which we have the idea and the thought of God. This is why you have a body and a soul. But do you have angels which don't have bodies but which are your twins? And an infinite number of twins existing in different dimensions. Yeah, you heard about angels. Now Spinoza is trying to really rationalize the Judeo-Christian Islamic tradition. Well, what is an angel?
A spirit that.
Huh?
A spirit that's good. I mean, that's what I mean.
Yeah, it's a spirit, but in this system, what is an angel?
For them, it's a thought.
Huh?
For them, it's a thought. Or not.
You see, I repeat, you see, each time God does something, it's understood in all the attributes, right? And each time he does something, you'll have the idea of what he did in his thought, because God thinks and he knows everything he's doing. I hope this is clear. So when he does something, he will have a body here, let's say a golden body here, a spiritual body there, etc. Now all of these bodies have their ideas, and with their ideas they constitute individuals. Is this clear? So we are this body with this soul, which is the idea of this body. But this body has a twin in another dimension. A twin, why? Because they both correspond to the same event in God. Is this clear or not yet?
But what is the me and the angel are the same?
Is God the power to exist and the power to produce?
Yes.
So each time God makes an action out of his power, this action is reverberated in all the attributes. So the same act of creation is a creation in matter, in the spiritual realm, in the golden realm, in the XYZ realm. So you see, each creation is actually an infinite number of creations that correspond to each attribute. So you have a way of material, a way of being golden body, a way of being, a silver body, whatever you want. And each action of God creates these bodies or these entities, but each entity will have its idea because thought is one of the attributes. So you have a golden body with its idea, a silver body with its idea, a body of flesh with its idea. And this is how you have, for one act of God, an infinite number of individuals. But given that God is the only cause, aren't all of these individuals submitted to the same order? Is there two causalities in the universe or only one? Only one. So you see, if God creates here a sequence of events, this sequence will be reverberated here and here in the same order because you have only one cause. I hope this is clear. So, the universe, to conclude, is made of what? It's made of individuals which are subjected to the same order. This is why, as I told you, is matter alive for Spinoza? Why is it alive? Can you have a body without a soul? Can you have a body without a soul? In Spinoza.
No.
Why not?
Because it's creating facets of facets.
Let's suppose here you create a stone. If you create a stone, can you create a stone without creating the idea of the stone?
No.
No. Because each action of God is immediately understood in all the attributes. So if you have an atom, a boson, or whatever you have in the universe, does it have a soul? It has a soul. Okay? And what are souls? Souls are simply the ideas of the bodies. And this brings us back to the conatus. If you have an atom, it has a soul. And what does the soul want? It wants to be happy, meaning to perform to bring under its ratios its parts. And this is why the atom moves, and the cat moves, and the stone rolls down the hill, etc., etc. All of these things are really like emanating from the nature of things, meaning from their inner essence and not from some external causality. Okay? And you see why this universe exists more than the universe of Descartes. This is the universe of Descartes, matter, thought, and God. In Descartes, can you have a material without a soul? In Descartes? Yeah, you can have here just extension, and you think extension. What is Spinoza saying? He's saying no, you can't have a material without thought or without a soul, because if you understand reality, each piece of matter should have its idea in God, and hence it has a soul. And this is why the conception of the universe of Spinoza is much more existing than the conception of the universe of Descartes, where you have matter without soul, soul without matter, and God doing the coordination. What Spinoza is saying, everything is alive, meaning everything has a body and a soul, and actually even more than that, everything also has angels. You have parallel universes which are moving with our universe, but we don't know of. We'll see why we don't know of this parallel universe soon, but this is, if you want, the structure. This is clear. So please read the notes, read the text by Spinoza, and we'll continue like that.
Sir, the job, did you give them out?
Yeah, I'll give you your grades.